Excuse me. Hi, everybody. It's Joe Cioffi here on this Memorial Day weekend, Saturday. Thought I'd come up and do a live stream here to update you on things at the midday hour as we watch the latest with Subtropical Storm Alberto. You can see the satellite loop here from overnight and into this morning. And by the way, you can access these satellite loops very easily if you go to nhc.noaa.gov and I think it's the data tab, and you'll see a selection there for satellite, and they have all kinds of loops throughout the tropics. And with this GO16, it's really great because we can actually see the layers of clouds on the visible. And I'm going to bring this up here full screen. And I'm actually going to get a bit on the tight side because I want to show you, we can see the low-level circulation. If you look east of the Yucatan Peninsula, this blow-up of clouds, and if you watch closely, you can also see the turning of the counterclockwise turning of the low clouds. That is the low-level center. Now, there's been a burst of thunderstorms this morning on the east side. This could be an indication that the system is maybe starting to get a little better organized, or at the very least, the conditions aloft may become becoming a little less hostile. And that is something that weather models have indicated is supposed to happen today. So this could be the beginning of that process. In the meantime, there's been a blow-up of convection throughout all of the east side, and that's moving northward, and it's moving over South Florida. There's been a considerable amount of rain this morning over parts of Central and South Florida, and there's more to come. Radars are busy, and weather models also very bullish on the idea of some more significant rain for Florida and eventually probably the southeast U.S. and into the Gulf Coast, depending on the forecast track. Now, I'm going to bring you bring up the full screen here, front and center, the Hurricane Center's current forecast. By the way, there are no tropical storm warnings up yet. The tropical storm watches are up in yellow, and there's a small area in and around the Tampa St. Pete outlined in yellow, and I think this is due to the fact that the wind field, if it is forecast to expand the way it is, may wind up grazing that part of the Florida coast. And we also have the tropical storm watch that is up for northwest Florida on westward through southern Alabama, southern Mississippi, back to southeastern Louisiana. So this includes New Orleans, it includes Biloxi, Gulfport, Mobile, Pensacola, and everybody in between. So that looks to me like probably the logical spot where you're going to have some kind of landfall. And the forecast track has actually been adjusted a little bit further to the east based on some of the overnight model runs. One of the things that's been happening is the fact that the low-level center, there may actually be or may have been multiple centers here. The one that we could see fairly obviously on the satellite loop is the one that I pointed out to you, but during yesterday and last night, there may have actually been multiple centers, and there still might be something tucked in under the stronger convection. The mid-level center is displaced to the northeast, so the system is poorly defined. It's not vertically stacked yet. It's kind of all over the place. And if you look at the satellite signature, that's exactly what it is. It's basically all over the place. It's spread out. There's not much going on the west side. You've got dry air because of this sharp upper trough in the Gulf of Mexico. So you've got dry air that's gotten involved in this. So at the moment, this is very definitely a subtropical system, but it is forecast by models to gradually make a transition over into a tropical system over the next 36 hours. So I wouldn't, I think it's going to happen. You'll start to see it show up on the satellite signature begins to change if we begin to see convection continuing to form in and around the circulation center rather than being displaced to the north and east. Now here's the radar, the wide U.S. radar view. You can see the rains that are over the southern third of Florida, down southward, extending into northern Cuba. We can't really see what's going on further south than that, and also offshore. So this is going to be continuing pretty much all day today and into tonight. There's not too much else happening as far as showers are concerned. There's a band of some showers up in northern New England. We've got some showers, maybe in a couple of thunderstorms that could be bubbling up in parts of western Virginia and northwestern North Carolina. And that really is about it. So we're going to probably see a little bit more activity start to pick up on the radars during this afternoon. But I'm not really expecting too much in terms of shower and thunderstorm activity for my area. I think we'll probably see some scattered precip develop, but I'm not worried too much about any kind of widespread activity. And the severe weather threat today, just to show you, then we're going to go back to the weather models. In the east is, you have this rather large area of general thunderstorm activity, but you don't have any organized areas of severe weather being indicated, except down in southern Florida because of Tropical Storm Alberto, a marginal risk of severe weather there. Sometimes in these types of things, you can get funnel clouds and even tornadoes with these tropical storms in some of the convection. So I guess the Storm Prediction Center is covering for that possibility. Two small areas of marginal risk in northern Michigan and in the upper peninsula of Michigan, extreme northeastern Wisconsin. And then we have a marginal to slight risk from the northern plains west into Montana and into parts of the northern Rockies. So that covers the extent of the severe weather. Now, let's take a look at what models are doing here going forward. We will bring up the new GFS has not started yet. It is just barely started. So we'll see how much of it we actually have. But I want to first go with the HRRR model. And this way we can cover what's going on here in the short range. And HRRR. Okay. So at the moment, this is the new HRRR model, which is only half done. This model only goes out 18 hours into the future. We will start to the beginning. I think it may have just completed its cycle. Let's see. Okay, so at the moment, you can see how the HRRR sees the radar presentation with Alberto with the rains over Florida, and that continues through this afternoon and into this evening. In my area, eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, it doesn't look like there's going to be a whole lot of shower and thunderstorm activity developing this afternoon or this evening. A few scattered cells seem to pop up in New Jersey. I think it makes sense. The greater emphasis will be down in Virginia and into the Delmarva Peninsula. Now, that area will probably try to blossom up overnight and move through here during the early morning hours, a couple of hours before daybreak, a couple of hours after daybreak. So those may be the showers for Sunday, and perhaps once we get through those, we could see some genuine improvement. Meanwhile, Alberto, at this point, you can see the HRRR just kind of drags it on a course north or maybe slightly west of north. The signature on the radar presentation on the HRRR is beginning to take a bit more of a tropical look to it. During the overnight hours. We're going to jump to the NAM now so that we can see where it goes a little bit further. The NAM is actually a little bit further east than the HRRR. There are your showers, by the way, for my area tomorrow morning. And the NAM actually lingers those showers into early afternoon. So we're going to have to watch that to see if that is indeed the case, because that could make it a little more problematic as far as rain is concerned. In the meantime, as we watch Alberto moving northward and then kind of jogging northwestward, the rain over Florida, a distinct band of heavy moisture is going to be streaming up from the Northwest Caribbean into Florida during the day Sunday. So there will be considerable rainfall. And then you've got Alberto strengthening a bit on the NAM right before landfall. There is a pocket of water temperatures that are greater than 20, that are in the 28, 29 degrees Celsius range, up into the 82 to 85 degree range right near the Gulf Coast. And some models are responding to that. And the low wind shear environment has strengthened this a bit before it makes landfall. So this could, juice up a little before it comes inland. And then, of course, the issue is going to be for the heavy rains that are going to be generated through areas in the southeast. And the runs today seem to have gotten away from doing, either a loop or a stall or a track on a crawl. They've all gotten a little bit faster and taking this thing inland, and the NAM wants to go north-northwest with it. Here's the look on the NAM. The landfall is around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday. It might be a few hours sooner than that, given that sometimes the model tends to be a bit slow with these things. But we're going to see what the other ones do and just try to get a better picture and zero in on where we think the landfall will be. The NAM's presentation of rain in terms of total rainfall, and this is where you got to be careful because it's never going to get the locally higher amounts that almost always occur with these things. And the NAM model through Tuesday, rainfall totals in the southern half of Florida, basically on the order of 2 to 4 or 5 inches. I think it could be, more than that. It might be some places may wind up getting double that on top of all the rain that has already fallen. Some places have gotten a foot of rain in the last week in Florida. And in the meantime, you've got a second band of heavy rain that's being indicated from the Florida Panhandle through parts of western Alabama, from the coast to areas up in the northwest, eastern Mississippi, the eastern half of Mississippi, all in sort of a 2 to 5 inch rain band, and some locally higher amounts. Again, I think that could be easily double it. The western flank of the rain is going to have a sharp cutoff. So if we wind up with a system that tracks a little bit further to the east, the western edge of that heavy rain may not make it to as far west as, say, New Orleans. It may only make it to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, maybe touching extreme southeastern Louisiana. But again, we want to be careful here in case there's a little bit of a jog to the west. But you can see how sharp that line is. Excuse me. The GFS, again, we only have a little bit of it out at the moment. We are only out to tomorrow evening. So let's see what it does at the surface. At least we have through Sunday night. And at least at this point, you can see that the GFS does kind of make this a little more circular, having a little bit more of a tropical characteristic to it. And it's sitting off the coast south of the Florida Panhandle by tomorrow evening. So at this point, you would probably think that there will be some gales along the coast of northwest Florida, back over into southern Alabama, the immediate coast anyway. I maintain that wind is not going to be the big issue here unless this thing suddenly decides to blow up a bit at the last minute as it approaches landfall. That's always a possibility. Some of the models actually do that. The European actually strengthens this to a minimal hurricane, as do a couple of others before making landfall. Here's the upper air that we've been talking about, how the upper air has been so important with all of this because of the nature of the upper ridges that we've been dealing with. It's been a little bit, problematic. Whenever you have a situation like that, it always becomes a bit problematic with regards to trying to figure out where this is all going to go. I'm going to bring up, let me see if I can bring up the paint box here. And, okay, that's the wrong window. My fault. Hang on one second, folks. I'm a little slow on the uptake at the moment. I'm having a little trouble managing this. Okay. Stubborn mouse. warm day. Weather is just not that, the humidity's been coming up. Weather's very warm here. All right, I think I can, might be able to do this now. And this is always a bit of a maneuver, but I got it. Okay, so we got our paint box up. Now I'm going to bring up the GFS, and we can talk a little bit about the upper air and what it all means. You have, we still have this mess in a sense with this the ridge and the upper trough all set up right in between. All right, finally got it there, folks. It's just, it's a lot of little steps I got to take, and sometimes it's a little difficult. But here we go. We've been talking the last number of days about this. This is for tonight, 2 a.m. actually, Sunday morning. So to review, in case you're new on the board, let's examine what we have with respect to this. We've got this ridge off the East Coast, this upper high. You've got a ridge that is building from Mexico up into the Central Plains. In between, you've got a trough. Whoops, I wanted to... Oh, come on. There we go. Fat finger. Here's your upper trough, and here's the upper low. And Alberto is going to be responding, being drawn into the upper low. And one of the things that's going to be occurring as it does so, it's going to be in an area of increasingly lessening wind shear. The upper air winds are going to be decreasing, and that is the other reason why the Hurricane Center is bullish on the idea of this thing organizing into a purely tropical system and strengthening over time. Now, going forward, as we move into Monday, and we now actually have the GFS far enough out so that we can go into Monday afternoon. I think one of the differences that is showing up on the model runs today is, and this trend may have started overnight. I wasn't able to give the overnight runs as close a look due to some time constraints, but certainly remember from yesterday, it appears what's happening is that we're getting a little bit of maybe some subtle weakness in the upper ridge off the Atlantic coast, and also the ridge that's out to the west. So I think that what that's doing is that it is allowing maybe a little bit more steering to get Alberto to keep moving along. This is for Monday afternoon. The system is just off the northwest coast of Florida. And I'll bring up the corresponding surface map. And you know what? I can even I'll get tighter with this. And yeah, even the GFS has this, given the pressure that it's indicating, I think that we can say that this is a minimal, this could be a strong tropical storm, certainly, or maybe a borderline hurricane, if that's the case. So this is for Monday afternoon at 2 p.m. With landfall imminent on the GFS. So you can see the subtle differences here from, with these models, and in terms of timing, in terms of strength. And of course, these small changes can lead to very different outcomes for this geographic area. If you look at this, by the way, this would justify the fact that, the western side, I guess I should use a different color here that shows up, excuse me. The western side of this cuts off sharply, as would be expected. So for you folks in Southeast Louisiana, this further east track is a whole lot better for you. And even for coastal Mississippi and into maybe westernmost coastal areas of Alabama. You start to get, further east from there, you do run into problems. But the dilemma of having the watch up over the long geographic area is always a problem. And I say this with regards to winter storms, and really the same does apply to hurricanes. It's going to the forecast is going to change. It's going to be, and you have to please anticipate the fluidness of this all as this whole thing evolves over time. And it's I know it's frustrating when you want to you want a definitive answer, and a lot of times it's very that's not an easy thing to do, nor is it something that is accomplished very often until you get inside the 24-hour time frame. And by the way, I should say at this point that if you are wherever you're watching, for more information, if you you really should consult your local National Weather Service office. You can go to weather.gov and find it there, or go to nhc.noaa.gov, which is the National Hurricane Center's website, and also, of course, pay attention to what your local government officials are telling you with regards to Alberto and the impact for your particular area, because that's something I can't really speak to. I can only speak to where I live, and even here, it would be difficult for me. So you need to consult your local officials, your local National Weather Service office, and the National Hurricane Center. Now, here's the GFS. You can see that circular look. Very, it looks like it makes the transition to a completely tropical system before it makes landfall, and then moves northward through Alabama. The GFS seems to want to take the sort of middle of the road track here, a little bit further east. The Hurricane Center's track matches up with this pretty well. I don't have any reason to doubt it or to argue against it at this point. I think the Hurricane Center's view on this is perfectly reasonable, and we'll see if there are going to be any changes. One of the keys to all of the, one of the important keys to all of this is that low-level center getting underneath the main area of convection, or to have convection that develops near the low-level circulation and is not blown off by the strong upper air winds. That is what we're going to be watching this afternoon to see if the models are indeed correct on this idea that we are going to see this storm strengthen as it moves up toward the Florida coast. Okay, so got a nice little group here today. Good to see everybody. Yeah, Priscilla Mayu, you're absolutely right. Those of you who understand how weather works, you prepare for it, and then you hope it doesn't happen. I never have quite understood when people, get upset when a storm is predicted and it winds up doing something different, let's say. Maybe it doesn't impact their area as much as it impacts another area, and they get upset about it. I know it's inconvenient, but, what do you want? What do you want someone like me to say to you? I'm sorry you didn't get the tragedy you were looking for. Stuff happens or it doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, you be thankful and go on to the next one. It's part of the variability of this. We're never going to get, certainly not in our lifetimes, are we ever going to get to a point where you're going to get certitude, even in the short range in a situation like this. You have to anticipate that there's going to be some fluidity in the forecast and some change. I think Tampa, K-Dog, is under a tropical storm watch because the topography of Tampa kind of extends outward, and I think looking at some of the models, it probably does have some the wind field on the gales may be touching that part of the coastline. Maybe they're being kind of rocket scientist-ish with regards to picking out that one spot, but judging from the very amorphous look of the system at the moment, and that you'll probably have strong winds well to the east of the center for a while until it becomes more of a tropical system, it isn't impossible that area, that one small area, could wind up experiencing tropical storm force winds. It's very interesting how that stands out, because the main watch is really up along the Gulf Coast from northwest Florida back over into southeastern Louisiana. I have friends on the Northwest, Jason Schaefer. Yeah, the only thing, Jason, I would say is that, you do have to allow for the possibility that this thing could strengthen before landfall. But, we're not talking about something that's going to strengthen to a major hurricane here. If you understand the fact that this could come inland as a strong tropical storm with winds, maybe they are forecasted. The Hurricane Center is forecasting winds to increase to over the max winds to increase to over 60 miles an hour. So you have to make a judgment call if you live there, if that's something that's problematic for you, your location. You have to sort of evaluate these things. But we certainly aren't looking at a major hurricane coming in. But just got to keep. We're just going to have to watch and see what happens. Is that part of the tip of the Florida Keys under tropical storm warnings? I don't think the Keys are. Let me just double check here. Just give me a second, folks. Let me look at that map again. The blue, actually, that is a tropical storm warning. But that might be for the coastal waters. I'm going to go to the Florida Weather Service website. I'm going to go for the South Florida Weather Service website to take a look. They do have tropical storm warnings up for the coastal waters, but they are not up for Key West itself. Okay, the coastal waters north of Key West is where we have the tropical storm warning up. In fact, you know what I can do? Give me 1 second here. Okay, so this is good. All right, so I'm going to bring up from the Weather Services page. If I can, just give me 1 second. I'm going to resize it so it's a little bit bigger. Hold on. All right, great. This works. All right, so stand by, folks. Again, a little bit of technical maneuvering for you so I can respond to that question. And just to show you. Okay, so here you go. This is what I did was I went to the NOAA website, the Weather Service website for Key West, the Key West forecast office, and where you see the dark red, that is those are the tropical storm warnings that are up. Key West is to the southeast of that tropical storm warning, but the warnings are up for the coastal waters. The green that you see on the landmass of Florida, that is part of the flood watch that exists, and that is very extensive. It goes all the way up. I can bring up the watches and warnings up for you. And here we go. Okay, I'm sorry, folks. I'm just kind of having a moment here with trying to maneuver my mouse. All right, so there you have the. You can't see the tropical storm watches because they are underneath the green, the dark green, which are flood watches up for southeastern Louisiana, coastal Mississippi, Alabama, coastal Alabama, southern Alabama, and part of northwest Florida. Also, you've got flood watches up for Central and South Florida. And, of course, now you see where the tropical storm warnings are in the dark red. Those are for the coastal waters. Now, the Hurricane Center is probably going to make some changes to all of this late this afternoon. So just bear in mind if you are watching this video at some point later today. We are right now at just about at 12 noon Eastern time. So make sure you check your local National Weather Service forecast page, and you can access that by going to weather.gov, or you can go to the National Hurricane Center's page, nhc.noaa.gov. And of course, if you've got any kind of questions or decisions that you have to make, please consult your local National Weather Service office or the Hurricane Center or your local government officials, okay, so that you can make the best decision that works for you. Just continuing to run through your questions. Melbourne, Florida, Winks Club on the east side. You're going to get some rain, but I think this is going to be more for the west side of Florida, but you're in the flood watch, so a lot depends on how this convection lines up. The threat for heavy rain is certainly there through the rest of today, tonight, and into Sunday for Central and South Florida. And no, Justin, let's not turn into a hurricane, please, okay? And Eric P. is just putting up part of the advisory here with from National Weather Service, Key West, from 11 a.m., Subtropical Storm Alberto, maximum sustained winds near 40 miles an hour, moving to the north at 10. And again, this is why wind is not the big issue at the moment, that it is rain, because of the fact that the system is large and sprawling and very disorganized and hasn't gotten that tropical look to it, where you have a concentration of convection near the circulation center, stronger winds gravitating closer to the circulation center. That's a process that we may see get underway later this afternoon and into tonight. Charlie Baker worked in the garden this morning, and it's humid. Enough cornstarch in my shorts to make it pancakes. Lovely. That's a great visual, Charlie. Thank you for sharing that. I actually ran out fishing for a couple hours this morning. I had I had problems with one of my air conditioners in the upstairs. Wound up leaking through the ceiling. So I had to take care of that this morning. It wasn't a huge deal, and thankfully it was a relatively easy fix. But yeah, the pancake imagery with the cornstarch was just really great. Timothy Veltman, good to see you here today. Tampa is just the only point on the West Coast that sticks out into the Gulf, so that the wind field may brush them. That's exactly correct. The topography is such that it sticks out, and they may get into it for a little while. And I guess maybe it's close enough where the Hurricane Center said, you know what, let's just go ahead and do this. And you know, they were left in a big, they had a big dilemma this weekend, being that it was a holiday weekend. A lot of folks are traveling. I would think in this day and age that it's hard not to know about these things when they happen, but you'd be surprised. You know, a lot of times, a lot of people, and rightfully so, they're coming to a 3-day weekend, or maybe they're on vacation. They like to shut things off and not pay attention to the world for a while so they can zone out. So they were kind of left in a bit of a box here as far as what to do. And I think they have handled it, in my opinion, from what we've seen so far, I think they have handled it exceptionally well. They've done everything. They've done the right thing with this so far, and I expect that they will do the exceptional job that they usually do. There's always going to be issues somewhere, but you know, they're doing a great job. UK Storm King, the southern UK will be very warm and thundery this weekend. Yeah, it's taken very much the look of summertime across much of Europe. I know I haven't really paid too much attention lately because we've got so much going on here that's front and center. But you're getting into your summertime weather, as are we. Danielo Yakubov, severe weather possible in New Jersey today? I don't think so. I mean, you could have the odd downpour or thunderstorm that pops up late this afternoon or this evening. But I think for most of the area, it's going to wind up being a non-event. So if you've got outdoor plans, I certainly would dice roll it today and for the rest of today, and go ahead with it. And by the way, I want to go back to just go to Alberto for 1 second. This is you know, someone posted this yesterday, and I misunderstood what he was referring to. I thought he was specifically referring to the month of May, when in fact his numbers were correct. This is the 7th storm that we have had preseason or postseason. If you take storms that have occurred outside the normal tropical storm season, this is the 7th one that we have had since 2012. That is a pretty exceptional figure in my view. It is the 3rd May tropical storm that we have seen since 2012. So that's 3 in the last 7 years. The other two, Beryl and Bonnie, Both made landfall in the along the southeast coast of the United States. And this one is going to make landfall, since it's in the Gulf of Mexico. It is landlocked. It has to go somewhere. So this one is going to make landfall. The question is whether it strengthens. It can strengthen to a minimal hurricane, because that would make it, I believe, the only other hurricane to make landfall in the Gulf of Mexico in the month of May. You have to go back to 1863. So we're talking a long, long time ago with regards to the historical precedent here. Yes, Joyce Mack, we certainly, it does feel like we jumped straight from winter to right into hurricane season. You know, the Northeast springs are horrible. They really are, and they always have been, and they always will be. And I think, you know, the concept that, you know, the switch gets flipped every year is a real one, I believe. And we certainly saw it this season. 2 smallmouth bass I got. Timothy, you may have seen the pictures on Facebook. I caught 2 smallmouth in the first 10 minutes I was there, and then after that, it just kind of shut down. So I guess they had their fill, and then they stopped hitting my line. So I stayed for a couple hours and then came back home to take care of business. Oh, Catherine Marie, thank you so much. Appreciate that you use the Amazon link, of which no one is under any obligation to do so, by the way, but thank you very much. It's a great way to support my channel. There is an Amazon link on the descriptor to this live stream and on the descriptors to any of the videos. If you shop on Amazon and you go through that link, whatever it is you buy, if you use the search box from there, whatever it is you buy, you get your stuff. Amazon sends me some coin, and like I said, it's a great way to support my efforts to expanding this. By the way, we did have 2 versions of the Joe and Joe Weather Show this week, Thursday and Friday, and I think what we're going to do going forward is make an attempt to try to do those a bit more often, certainly in these storm situations. It's great to have Joe Rayo's expertise. Joe and I have known each other for almost 40 years, and we've worked at times together. Most of the time we worked in different places, but right now we work together on a daily basis. We basically started our careers together, and we're probably going to wind up finishing them together. And if we finish them by doing it on the Joe and Joe Weather Show here on YouTube on a daily basis, I think that would be a great thing. So again, thank you very much for those of you who use the Amazon link. Let's see. 2 days ago, your dog, Carl White's, yes, snow in Newfoundland. It was certainly there. A foot of snow in some places. Unbelievable. But shows you how things are this year. The atmosphere has been stretched to extreme for all of the winter and for a good part of the spring. I guess we should say it's not a surprise that winter was trying to hang on somewhere. Joyce Mack, Father's Day coming, but I have no idea which of these fishing things on Amazon would be on Hub's Father's Day wish list. Well, Joyce, I guess the only solution is to buy them all. Because I think, like shoes, if you wind up buying all the fishing gear you could possibly buy for your husband, he'll be okay with that. All right. And by the way, you don't have to. Those are just recommendations. You don't have to. You don't have to go with those. You can search for other ones in the search box. Just put in fishing gear and see what comes up. Just ask them. You know, guys are listen. It's nice to surprise, but it's even nicer when if you ask your man, what is it you want, and he tells you, and you get him that. He's the happiest guy in the world. When there's a problem when a guy says this is asked, and he says, okay, this is what I want. This is exactly what I want you to get me. And you get him something else, and you say to him, I know you wanted X, but I thought you might like this better. Okay, that's just wrong. Okay, don't ever do that. All right, ask him what he wants, he tells you what he wants, and you get him what he wants, he'll be in heaven. Okay. All right, folks, listen, let's call it a day at this point. Thank you so much for being here. I am going to take a little bit of time this afternoon to just kind of do some things for myself. I will try and do a late live stream tonight, but it's going to be late. It'll probably be after 9 o'clock, and maybe not until 10 o'clock Eastern time. So look for that. If you're watching this, please remember that we started this live stream at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. So if you're watching this later this afternoon, it may be somewhat dated. You might want to check with the National Hurricane Center website, nhc.noaa.gov or weather.gov, to perhaps get a little bit more updated information. But in terms of the models that are coming in, that is going to be, there isn't going to be too much difference between now and the next couple of hours. We've seen what we need to see with regards to that. All right, folks, and don't forget to, latest website posts will be up on meteorologistjoecioffi.com, and Angry Ben has NYC covered, and his perspective on Alberto, is at nycweathernow.com. Have a great day. Enjoy the holiday weekend. Be sure to remember Monday to commemorate Memorial Day in honor of those who have given or sacrificed their lives so that we could live as a free nation. Please remember that for the holiday, at least at some point during the day. Take a little bit of time to honor those who have sacrificed their lives for us, and for those who continue to sacrifice their daily existences by serving our nation. Take care. Have a great day. We will see you later.